Greetings, warlords. John DeCompass here, Terrible Games. I had posted something to the Terrible Games group page last week asking if people wanted to learn a little bit more about the expanded factions that we have. I'll remember to try and look in the camera. I'm going to be reading off of my computer monitor up here, and what I'm going to try and do is take screen caps of the different abilities and put them here, if I can figure out how to do that. So let's jump right in. This is Token Terror Season 5, titled Coliseum. So something we want to do in Token Terror's Battlegrounds is every 5th season we want to have like a milestone event where lots of different factions from different parts of the world of Token Terrors all converge for a grand contest. So, spoiler alert, season 10, I think we're doing something with like a magic battle. One of them is like a weird carnival, but this one's called Coliseum, and it's just about warriors clashing to prove their supremacy. Every faction in this season is a melee type, although there is some attack versatility. So let's jump into it. The first faction we have is the Assassin. This is going to be the black faction for Season 5. They are a melee typical human, essentially like a ninja, but we want to do like a more traditional ninja in a different season. So these ones are called Assassins. Their first ability is a passive ability called a token trait. That means it doesn't cost any commands. Assassins reinforce onto any unoccupied space. This is very helpful. It'll really help with keeping your threat bonuses up and give you a lot of zone control. Their other ability, Sneak Attack. This is a ready talent. So we're trying to streamline the key phrasing in future seasons. So when we say ready talent, it's going to say, this means that you're going to turn the token 90 degrees to the right to indicate it has a persistent effect. And in this particular case, the persistent effect is that their talent is going to trigger if certain conditions are met. So if this assassin battles or retaliates, aka like you can ready it on sneak attack and then you can attack something and it'll trigger, or you can leave it that way and after your turn ends, if your opponent battles you, it'll also trigger. So if this assassin battles or retaliates, roll the evasion die and complete this talent based on the outcome. 1 or 2 is backstab. This assassin deals damage to a surrounding enemy equal to its threat plus 1. All players lose 1 surge point. Okay, not too bad. 3 or 4 is poison. Ready any tokens surrounding this assassin. Tokens ready this way get -1 threat and can't be refreshed until the end of your next turn. This is good because you can attack them from range. They won't be able to evade, so very helpful. At your reinforcement step, destroy this assassin. Not so good. But kind of an interesting byproduct is that you delete a guy off the board, and then if you bring another assassin out, they just enter back in and take his spot, which is kind of neat. 5 or 6 is trap. Move up to 2 enemies up to 2 spaces each. If an enemy ends in a space surrounding an assassin, it is destroyed. That's really gnarly. The idea behind sneak attack is like you can't trust assassins. If you use an assassin, they could end up hurting you just as well as they might hurt your enemy. And they're also unpredictable, hence the random input. All right, next up we have the Ronin. This is our white faction. It's a melee typical creature, and what I am really stoked about with the Ronin is that we're going to be introducing a new creature type called the Usagi. These are rabbit people, so it's going to be cool. He's going to have his ears like tied into a little bun. Their first ability is called Swordplay. This is another ready talent. If this Ronin battles or retaliates, each player rolls the evasion die. If the outcome of your roll is matching or greater than your opponent's, this Ronin gets +2 threat until the end of the turn. So that's huge. You can take a little bit of a risk. In the case of defending against it, I mean, it really is just a great deterrent to your opponent. But moreover, if you're successful, you get that +2 threat until end of turn. Now, if this happens during your opponent's turn, it just means they're probably not going to be able to kill that Ronin. But if you do it during your turn, then you could issue their second talent called Archery. The next time this Ronin battles this turn, it has a range of X + 2, where X is equal to its threat. So Swordplay worked in your favor during your turn. You now have a standing single unit with a threat 3 until end of turn. And then you issue Archery. It gets an additional +2 to its range. So now you're dealing 3 damage from 5 spaces away with a unit you can move wherever you want. So that's pretty damn awesome. Moving forward, we have the Barbarian, which is our green faction. That is the melee typical human. I've gotten some comments that these are a little bit overpowered, but let's take a look and you guys be the judge. Battle tested. Until the end of this turn, this barbarian may blindside as a single command. Boom. Pretty cool. But keep in mind, this is a blindside. This is a blindside attack that's dealing 1, maybe 2 damage. Granted, you can blindside multiple times at a much better efficiency on action cost. So you can attack things multiple times and, maybe blindside multiple times and take things out. But I actually wonder how it'll work in practice, because on paper it seems really powerful, but I wonder how powerful it actually is once you're in the game. Their other ability, Rage. The next time this turn, this barbarian destroys an enemy and survives, presumably from blindsiding something at the cost of 1 command, immediately issue 2 commands except for talents. When this activation ends, enrage this barbarian. Okay, so when the activation ends, if you've done this thing where you get 2 more commands out of a single command, you're using those other 2 commands to maybe move twice, or maybe move and blindside, because you can blindside at a cost of 1 command, or you're going battle, perhaps. But when the turn ends, you're going to enrage the barbarian, which means you forfeit the ability to evade range attacks. Now, you might be able to protect against that by, reinforcing in an intelligent way. Maybe you drop a Ronin there who can, or not a Ronin, maybe you drop an assassin next to him during your reinforcement step, so that the assassin can soak range damage and maybe get an evasion. Again, like, the barbarians on paper seem really, really powerful, but I wonder how useful they would actually be. But their intention was to have them be like these really powerful, like, single unit fighters. Next up, we have the red faction, which is the Minotaurs. They are a melee typical creature. Their first ability is called Gore, and this is a hasty ability. So this key phrase means that you have to issue this talent at the top of your turn. So as soon as you activate the Minotaur, you must issue this talent. Gore. Until this turn ends, if this Minotaur completes 4 or more move commands in a row and ends in a space adjacent to an enemy, it battles that enemy with a +2 threat. This is a great way to get rid of powerful fortified units. And it's made even better. So you have to issue that at the top of your turn. But that just means that anytime you complete 4 move commands, if you end your movement adjacent to another enemy, you battle it with a +2 threat. This happens can happen multiple times, especially if you go into your turn with 6 Surge. Then you issue its other token talent, Stampede. Roll the evasion die, then issue X move commands to 2 or more friendly Minotaurs where X is the outcome of your roll. If 1 is the outcome, or there aren't 2 or more Minotaurs on the battleground, this talent cancels. So a couple barriers for this to trigger. You have to roll a 2 or greater, and you have to have 2 or more Minotaurs on the board. But if you roll a 6... and you're sitting on a couple of surge points and you've issued Gore at the top of your turn, you could issue 4 move commands to a Minotaur, have it end in a space adjacent to an enemy with a +2 bonus, battle it at threat 3 and knock out a threat 2. It's just taking 2 damage. Then you spend a couple surge and use the rest of your movements. It has to be 4 movements in a row. Again, like, on paper this looks gnarly as hell, but I want to actually see how easy it is to pull off these different conditions. Next up, we have the blue faction, which is the Cyclopses, the Cycloptians. I don't know how you say Cyclops plurally. Their first ability, they are a melee typical creature. So the first ability is called Size Up. The next time this turn, the Cyclops battles. If the enemy has a higher threat, that enemy doesn't retaliate. I think that's awesome. I think that's another way to take down really strong enemies. It creates some interesting sort of puzzly math on how exactly you get that to be super useful. Well, let's take a look at their other ability and see if they complement, which I'm pretty sure they do. Jeer. Target a fresh enemy within range 3. That enemy must be activated on your opponent's next turn. So this is some pretty heinous control over your opponent's units. Telling them that they have to activate a specific unit, especially if it's the only one on the board, could be an easy way to take it down. So you move that unit, they're forced to move that unit out of position. They got to do some stuff they weren't really planning for. Maybe they separate from the group, and then you can go up and do Size Up and take out something that's stronger. We're gonna see. I'm not 100% sure on the Cyclopses quite yet. I do like them in principle, but we'll see. Next up, we have the robot. Maybe we'll call it BattleBot. I don't know. This is the machines sending in their best for the Coliseum battles. Heavy metal, which is a passive token trait, costs no commands. Range attacks against robots must deal 2 or more damage, otherwise robots take no damage. Beautiful. You don't need to. We don't need to unpack that one at all. It's just really good. Charged laser, which is another hasty ability, and this one will cost 3 commands to do, mostly because of the way that it ends your turn, because you have to leave the unit in the ready state. Ready talent, if this robot is refreshed, it deals 3 damage at a range of up to 5. So that's awesome. I think that the drawback to so much power, to so much reach, and to so much damage that you can deal at that reach is that you're telegraphing your turn to your opponent. You have to, first of all, if they can get another unit over there to take it out, that's game over for Charged Laser. You won't have the chance to refresh it, so you're not going to gain its benefit. The other part of it is that it's 3 damage at a range of up to 5. Setting that up so that it actually hits an enemy target is probably not going to be as easy as it sounds. But if you can get it to work, it should be really helpful. And, the idea is that you'll be able to mix and match these new seasons from season 5 with other previous seasons. So we have 4 other seasons of Token Terrors you can match these guys with. There's other stuff with movement. There's other stuff with threat bonuses. The machines especially do some really weird synergistic stuff. So we'll see how helpful it is. I'm hoping there's some people out there who can sort of grok our whole system and figure out how to optimize these different factions. Last but not least, we have our color variant 7th faction. If you're not familiar, every season of Token Terrors, we're going to take one of our sculpts and just press it in a different color, in a variant color, and add a 7th faction to the box. And this one is going to be called the Shadows, and they're going to be a recast of the Assassin sculpt, but instead of in opaque black, they're going to be translucent, wispy, black, shadowy, kind of, translucent black gray. The Shadows are melee typical human, and they have 2 abilities like normal. The first one is called Umbra, and this is another ready talent, so you'll set this during your turn and turn the token 90 degrees to the right to indicate that this will trigger if it is attacked or retaliates, or in this case, if it attacks or retaliates. Ready talent, if this shadow battles or retaliates, move this shadow to a space adjacent to an enemy. Awesome. So move up on an enemy, ready this dude with Umbra, attack an enemy, kill it with a melee attack that can't be evaded, and then immediately move it adjacent to another enemy, and then probably do, enrage battle or move blindside. Its other ability, Mist Form, which is a passive ability, a token trait. Whenever a shadow blindsides and destroys an enemy, you may move that shadow up to 3 spaces. So just a ton of movement control. Really efficient, sort of like appear, disappear, I'm turning into smoke kind of stuff going on. So that's it for season 5. Hopefully I figured out how to edit images into this video, and comment below. Let me know what you think of these guys. If this video has some conversation, if people are digging it, maybe I'll make more. We got 30 fucking seasons of Token Terrors to look at. Thanks, guys.